Hey everyone, so today we're going to have a look at ergonomics and anthropometrics for the second year revision for your exam. So just a reminder of what you need to know from last year. So that is what the term ergonomics means, what the term anthropometrics means, how both of them can be used to affect the design of everyday products, and then being able to apply it to real life examples. So in the exam it may give you some examples it wants you to improve the ergonomics of, or it might ask you to use examples from your own brain. So we'll look at ergonomics first. So, what are ergonomics and how they influence design? So, ergonomics is essentially how you, as a person, how anyone as a user interacts with a product, system, or environment. Now, most people just assume products because that's the thing that you feel and hold, like things like a phone, controllers, and things like that. But systems are sort of areas where you're interacting, and that could be, say, a kitchen where you are using an oven, you're using a dishwasher, you're using the sink, and you're moving around spaces using things like that. Then environments could be things like your car, it could be when you go to the supermarket, it could be a cinema. So ergonomics isn't just covering what you're touching, what you're feeling, it could be how you are doing a range of things in a space. So product designers particularly, you do focus on products and how easy it is to use because if you can make a product similar to another product and you can improve the ergonomics, make it easy to use, your sales are going to improve compared to someone else. So you have two identical products and one is more comfortable and easy to use, people are going to buy that one as opposed to the other one. So it is quite an important factor to consider. So just a little recap of the type of product. Like most products, when they come to market, all the way up until modern day, they have developed in quite like considerable ways. So just a few examples to hopefully recap you a little bit. We take things like games controllers. So like you're all probably too young to remember the original Xbox controller, but it was like a beast. It was huge. You could just barely hold it with two hands. All the way through to the most recent Xbox controller. Same with like Nintendo, where it's just like the rectangle, quite sharp corners. You go all the way through to now where you've got like Nintendo Switch, where you've got like the little joypads that can come out. Mobile phones, and I'm sure you see it in movies where they had like the big cinder block phones, all the way through to modern day, like the iPhone 11 or 12 that just came out. So you can see like how they have changed dramatically. Things like computer mice, particularly if you're someone that does gaming on a PC or has like an ergonomic mouse that has been designed to be as comfortable to use as possible. So pretty much every product you can think of has changed since its initial conception into the market, and that is down to ergonomics and how it's been improved. So how does ergonomics influence the design of the product? So basically, how successful a product is depends on how comfortable and easy to use it actually is. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into that. That is, if you buy something and it's easy to use and easy to set up, really accessible. But if you buy something and just the setup of it, so if say you bought furniture trying to put together, or you bought like a console or whatever it is you bought, and there's this huge amount of complex instructions, and it's really like not intuitive to use, people aren't going to want to buy it. Okay, so you're trying to make it as easy to set up, easy to use, as easy to maintain as possible. So there's also, as I said, interaction between human body products, but systems, things like kitchen and environments, car interiors, like when you're on the plane, when you're in an airport. Like if you go on a plane and you go on holiday and you're on an airline and you know that the aircraft is horrible because it's just horrible, you're all cramped up, there's no space, there's no TVs. I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm going to fly with someone else next year. Okay, so the whole point of doing this is to beat your nearest competitors. So the four main factors of ergonomics, you have color, lighting, sound, and comfort. So most people just think about comfort because that's the one that comes to mind most like commonly, because obviously you're holding something, things like your phone, your controller, you know how it feels and sits in your hand. It's molded to your hand. There's soft, there's grips on it, that sort of thing. But then things like color, obviously when things change color, it's like a sign that something's happened. Think colors like uh, blue and red indicating hot and cold. Your cold and warm colours. Some colours that can be seen as being aggressive, some can be seen very calming. So there's a range of ways that colours can be used. Lighting, so this is used a lot in like environments, things like restaurants, cinemas, and things like that. You've also got lighting, say, on your phone. So when you're in day mode and it's quite bright and you go nighttime, and the night mode button so your phone dims so it doesn't like hurt your eyes as much and kind of like encourage you to sleep a little bit. And then sound, so things like having audible instructions like on your sat nav, if you press a button and it makes a sound like it bings let you know about sound, or it tells you what you've done. So if you press a lift and it says what floor you're going to. Self checkout at Tesco's and Sainsbury's. Um, all those sort of things are what indicate that something's happened. It's not like a receipt. That's why if you press a light switch and it clicks, so you know, oh yeah, I'll press that light switch. Or if you turn a kettle on, because if there's like a little doubt that you've like not turned something on, that click is sort of going, oh yeah. That's why when you're say on your computer and you click on something and it doesn't work straight away, you click it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and then suddenly like nothing happens, and all of it appears at once because you haven't really had that receipt. That's why in person, if you can like feel the click and think, okay, something has happened. So yeah, most people think of comfort, but you always have to consider the lighting, color, and sound as well. So anthropometrics. So that essentially comes just before. It's always used hand in hand with ergonomics, but anthropometrics is how is the collection of measurements that are used to make something as ergonomically comfortable as possible. So if you're taking a chair, you're looking at measurements to do like leg length of like thigh, like upper thigh length, lower calf, glute side, like glute size, lower back, like all those sort of things that you're considering. Obviously, different products will require different sets of measurements, and it just depends on what you're doing. But in order for something to be as ergonomically like suitable as possible, you've got to have the anthropometrics in there. And all this data exists. It's just as a designer taking it and making it as suitable as you can. So then with anthropometrics, it's all presented in data. So you do get charts, a lot of it with just like sheer data, and then sometimes it is presented in tables as well. So you'll have, excuse me, 5th to the 95th with this big orange group here. If you're smack bang in the middle, you are 50%, that's you right there. But if you're above or below just slightly, we fall right in the 5th to the 95th. Now that is the general population. That's why most things suiters. That's why if you can go to shops, you can buy clothes that fit you. That's why if you go and buy furniture, it suits you. That's why you can fit in cars. That's why you can sit in chairs. That's why you can walk through doors. Because everything is made to suit us in the 5th to the 95th percentile. If you're on the extreme ends of things, like the very, very tall or like overweight or the very skinny and underweight, you fall under, if you're the very extreme high end, you are the 95th to 100. So that's why you're going to struggle to buy clothes, you struggle to buy shoes, beds will be too small for you, trying to fit on the door frames, you have to duck down, that sort of thing. So if you're talking about like height, for example, this might be those that are say 6'8" and above. And then the 0 to 5th percentile. So again, if we're talking heights, with the very short. So this might be say under 4'5", that type of thing. So it's important you know percentiles that term. And for the general population, we are the 5th to the 95th. That's what it refers to. We are the ones right in that middle, and that's why things are made for us. So we're going to have a look at a couple of exam questions. So sometimes ergonomics is its own standalone question, but it might be quite a long question. Typically, this might be a 10, 12 mark question, and it asks you to analyze and compare. So the first one, so ergonomics and anthropometrics. Sorry about that. Ergonomics and anthropometrics are both critical factors in the success of a product. For a specific product of your choice, explain how the designer has considered ergonomics and anthropometrics to make it both comfortable and easy to use. Okay, so first challenge is picking out a good product to write about. Okay, make sure it's something you've used before and you understand the ergonomics of it. So it could be like your iPod, your phone, games controller, something you're familiar with. Don't just pick something if it's not something you know how to write about, because then you're going to struggle. Okay, so 18 marks. So so breaking that down, there's 9 points with an explanation. So because it's a long mark question, you're going to need a summary or a conclusion as well. So it could be 8 points for an explanation and then 2 marks for your conclusion as well. Okay. So and then on that as well, you are assessed on your spag, right? So the spelling, punctuation, and grammar are marked when you do your long mark questions as well. So you've got 18 marks, nearly 18 minutes. Pause the video, use the textbook, answer the questions, and then unpause the video. Okay, so this is lifted from the mark scheme. So the answer does not require candidates to separate ergonomics and metrics. So you can kind of mix them together, but it's anticipated that your separate them a little bit and give a good explanation of the difference of it. So what I would probably do first is start with a definition for each of them. Okay, so just a little like paragraph first, not necessarily a paragraph, but a little sentence, just explain what ergonomics is, what anthropometrics is, and how they interact with each other. That would be a good way to start. So then the next bit is like the selection of a suitable product. Okay, so obviously the better product you can talk about, the more likely you are to get the marks. So good ones would have been like handheld tools, handheld products, such as iPods, kettles. Um, you could, if you were saying environments, you could say like buildings, cinemas, vehicles, that sort of thing. Okay. So then it's just you can't go through because there could be so many different examples. Where it's things like making sure we take like your phone and talk about your hand width, the range of motion for your thumb, making sure uh, the kind of material is grippy enough so it won't fall out of your hand, making sure it will fit in someone's pocket, make sure it's not going to be too heavy to like put stress on someone's wrist. Okay, those sort of things. So obviously, you're only using one product, so it's making sure you can think about enough points to be able to get those points worthwhile. So next one, explain how designers consider the anthropometrics and ergonomics in the development of a remote controller like the one shown. So 9 marks. So it's an odd number, so to be safe, still do 5 points with an explanation. And then because it's a long mark one, you have to have a summary because it's a long mark question. So pause video, give yourself 9 minutes, and we'll go through the answers. Okay, so ergonomics. So use the palm line to determine the length of the remote. So that'll be how long your palm is. Finger size to determine the size of the buttons and spacing. So why are they so far apart? Average grip size to determine like how wide they can have it. The ergonomics, things like the colours for the most frequently used buttons, like the power button being a different colour. Key buttons like the volume and channel changer always being bigger because those are the most common ones to use as well. Use of ideograms on buttons, so you, like imprints and buttons, so it's easier to feel without looking at it. So you can sort of feel where the plus and minus is. Okay, that's the button. So you have to look down on it. So instructions may say like white text on the black background, make it easy to read. Possible shaping on the back of the controller to make it grippy. So that's why you have sometimes like the battery bit that pops off is a slightly different texture, so it's like easier to grip. Potential use of uh, different types of texture grips that you can have or rigid molds, and like say if you're molding it straight into the shape. You use the spring-loaded catch on the battery compartment, so that's why you should be able to like get the battery out a little bit easier. So there's like a little finger groove, so you can take the battery pack off. And buttons, it says at the bottom, buttons shouldn't be recessed, so you shouldn't sit below the surface of the controller because then you're really going to struggle to press it. So the last one is a maths question to do with ergonomics. The figure one shows a standing workstation. The ideal height of the desktop is level with the elbow height of the user as shown in figure 2. So if you see there, it's showing you right there, so elbow height. So calculate the range of height adjustments required to accommodate the 15th to the 85th percentile of the sample shown in the table. The table shows ideal elbow height for a range of users. So 2 marks, pause the video, and then we'll go for the answer. Okay, so I'm going to go backwards and forwards from there. So calculate the 5th percentile. So 15th. So you're going to count down and see the 15th. So you will then have so total number of people in the sample is 220. So the 15th percentile, 220 divided by 100, times that by 15 because you're after the 15th percentile, gets you 33. So again, so all we're doing now to begin with, we are just adding in how many people we've got in the sample. Okay, so the total number of people we have in there, which is 220. So the same for the 85th. Calculate, so we've got 220. So dividing it by 100, and that's by 85, because we're after the 85th percentile. That gives you 187. So then you're going to look at the range from 987 to 1137, sorry, or 150 millimeters. Okay, so you get those 2 marks available. So you get a mark for calculating 15th and 85th percentile, and then a mark for realizing what the correct height would be. So we're going from 987 to 137. So we're going there to there. So not an overly complicated math question. So it's just making sure you simply adding how many people are in the sample group. You then divide it by 100 and then times by whatever the number is. So if you're looking for the 20th percentile, times by 20, you're looking for the 35th percentile, times by 35, and that gets you your number. If you've got any questions, please send me an email or give me a message on